Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video. Today's video is featuring this Mermaid and the Whale set from the new Colorado Crafts release from Anita Jaram. The reason that I wanted to do this, normally I wouldn't do like back-to-back videos like this, but when I first saw this image, I was like, wow, this is super cute, but there's a lot going on here. And with these more detailed scenes, I think that people have a really hard time trying to figure out how to approach them and not be overwhelmed. And so you guys know in my other videos, we've talked a lot about color mapping. Today, we're going to talk quite a bit about it and how it can help you be more successful in your coloring and feel less overwhelmed. So first things first, there is a picture colored on the package. So this one is all monochromatic, which isn't necessarily as helpful as it could be. But just watching like where they put the shadows and things can help you start to figure out where some things start and some things end. And so all color mapping is basically when you start with your image, you're going to go in and you're going to lay down your lightest color. I start with the things that are the most obvious to me as first. So like, obviously I could look at this, I could very distinctly see the whale. I colored that. I looked at it, I could very distinctly see that there were rocks that were drawn into, the area that is the land. So I colored those. And then once I got the rocks colored in, like the stars are obvious in the sky, the little starfish are very obvious once the rocks get colored. And so I just kind of methodically move my way through, starting with the things that I absolutely 100% know what they are. And as those kind of get blocked in with color, it makes the other things become more apparent. So this is clearly a very whimsical design. It's probably more, like a storybook style or almost like a coloring page, which I find very relaxing. And I found this very relaxing as well, to just sit and color. So this video is just going to be like super chill kind of chatting video. I did not even put a sentiment on this card. I just treated it for what it was, which was something that was really fun and relaxing for me to color. So the reason you want to start with your lightest color, though, is because if you choose to then add in dimension or add in other colors, then you're not competing with what you already have down. With that said, you don't have to. Like you don't have to add other shading or other dimension. You can color it with one color and it can still be a very pretty image. Or you can color it with a 2-color blend. Most of the time I use around 3 to 4 colors depending upon what I'm coloring, but you don't have to do that to have an image that you're happy with. Once you're happy with it, stop. And that's totally okay. So we're just going to go through and, slowly add in these lightest colors. I would recommend, if you do not plan on adding any further dimension, that you don't start with the lightest color. If this is going to be the only color that you lay down, then just lay down whatever color you want it to be. Don't go with the lightest tone of whatever color you're using. So here, how did I find where to put the sand? I found where to put the sand by looking at that packaging. Because with the rocks, she very clearly, even though it is monochromatic, it's all done in blues, she very clearly added shadows underneath her rocks, which means they would be on the land. And so that is how I determined what was supposed to be land and what was supposed to be sea. The difference between the sea and the sky is pretty distinct, even though the water is drawn with these kind of whimsical little swirls. To me, it's very apparent where the swirls stop and the sky begins. And so that is what I chose to do. I also chose to make my mermaid, like her body, all one color. You would not need to necessarily do that. You could definitely do like multiple colors. I did that in the other card that I did using this collection, which you can watch that one up day before yesterday. And you can see how I did a multicolor blend on the tail, which I do think is very beautiful. But for this one, because we have so much going on, I chose not to add, like, she's the focal point. There's a lot happening, but she is clearly meant to be the thing that draws your eye, is this beautiful mermaid. And so I chose to just keep her one color so that, and she's different than all the other colors, like on purpose. So here, this is everything with the color just laid down and just a solid wash. The only thing that doesn't have any color are my seagulls. And the reason that they don't is because I would not, if I was coloring something white, I wouldn't completely fill it in with gray. I would only use the grays in the shadow areas. So now we're going to start building up some color because I do like dimension in my images. And with that, I like to start with my lightest color, go out to my darkest, and then from my darkest back into my lightest. I did not start with my lightest color in this portion of the video because my lightest color is already down. So I started with what I call my first midtone because I use a 4-color blend. And then I will work back out to the lightest color, and I do use the lightest color at the end to help blend those midtones on the edges. And then parts of this are going to be sped up. This did take me, in real life, it took me about an hour and a half to color. Now, sometimes I was interrupted by text messages, sometimes I was interrupted by emails, but that is about the length that it took me to do it. If I had no interruptions, I would venture to say that it took me about an hour with all of the dimension that I put into it. But again, this is your thing. So wherever you want to stop and wherever you're comfortable, then do that. And so like from here on out, we're gonna color and we're gonna chat. What are we gonna chat about? So we're all getting older. I mean, basically you get older or you die. Those are your two choices. And so I will turn 40 this year. And so my best friend, we've talked about her a little bit in the past, also turning 40. Now she is single at the moment. And usually like when your bigger birthday rolls around or whatever, like it's your significant other that does something for your birthday. But she doesn't have a significant other. And I wanted to make sure that she didn't spend her birthday, just her and my goddaughter, like that nothing was being done for her birthday. So I called her, asked her what she was doing, and she said Saturday night, her and a group of other friends that she had were, like there was a group of them that had birthdays, they were going to Topgolf. And I said, but do you have any plans on your actual birthday, which was yesterday? And she said no. So I said, well, you and Alexa want to come over for dinner? And she said, sure. So then I made her pick a birthday cake flavor so that I could make her a cake and I could, acknowledge her, like make her dinner and acknowledge her birthday and we could get to visit. Let's talk about the sky. So here you saw me blend a couple of different colors. You may ask, Kelly, why are you going over it with this lighter blue? The reason I went over it with the lighter blue was just to because alcohol markers are transparent, you can glaze other colors and change the tones that you have. And so just to put in a couple of bright pops of blue into the sky to make it more interesting, that is why I went over it with that that light blue color. It isn't actually like super light in that family. It's actually a mid-tone, but you catch my drift. For the ocean, I'm just going in and like clearly the swirls are meant to be like the white caps in the water, and so I'm adding shading underneath those. And then on this right hand side, there isn't really a lot of guidance. There's not a lot of swirls, just up at the top. And so for this side, in order to make it look seamless, I just picked sections that were separated to add a little bit of darker shading too, so that I would have the same cohesive look of the water all the way across my image. So anyway, so they came over yesterday and I did make her cake. I asked her what flavor she wanted and I told her, please don't make me make vanilla because while she is my best friend, she doesn't like chocolate. I know that is unbelievable. I'm sure there's other people who don't like chocolate, but to me, I love it. So it's very strange to me. But anywho, she was like, no, I won't make you make vanilla. So she picked strawberry, which was fine. And so I made a vanilla cake with vanilla buttercream, and it had a strawberry filling. And then I ended up putting strawberries all over the top because I tried to do this like really fancy sprinkle 40 with like wax paper stencils that I drew myself, and it did not. It was a no-go. I needed more time, I think, to let the cake freeze, so that like I wouldn't have the issues when I put the stencil down, but I didn't. And so I was left with what I was left with, which meant I just used sliced strawberries to cover the entire top of it was. Because very much like my card making, I am adaptable. Like sometimes you just have to, I'm not starting over. You got to do what you got to do to make it work. And that is what I did. So anyway, they came over and we had like chicken parm and salad, and then we had cake, and it was really good to see her, because even though she's been my best friend for, catch this, 25 years of shenanigans, we don't necessarily get to talk all the time. Like she's very busy with her job. She's also does a lot of things for her child's school. She's super active in all of that. And I obviously have two, like her daughter, my goddaughter, is the same age as Peanut. They were literally born in the same year. We did not plan that. And then, I have Caitlin as well. And, so it's just life is busy and we don't always talk. But as I have expressed in previous videos, like she is just one of those friendships where it's not required that we talk every day. And we may go a month without talking to each other. And then the next time we're on the phone for like 4 hours and we're catching up on all the things that we missed in the last, 30 days or 2 months or whatever it has been. And like that friendship is always solid. Like she could call me anytime for anything and I would absolutely be there in a heartbeat, and vice versa. But what I wanted to talk about was, do you have a friend, and it doesn't have to be a 25-year friendship, though that is what mine is, that you have just watched grow from being in situations or changing the way that they approach the world, that you have just watched grow in like leaps and bounds, and you are just so incredibly proud of them, because that is where I'm at. So we've been, like I said, 25 years is a lot of, I'm not going to share all her secrets because God willing, she does not share mine. But we have gone from high school problems to high school boyfriends to she's been in both of my weddings to living together, which did not work out. Living together, going to school, like college, getting pregnant, having kids, the starts of relationships, the ends of relationships, and pretty much everything in between. And she didn't have a great childhood. Not that there wasn't love in their household, but it was a much more difficult upbringing. They didn't necessarily have a lot of money. Her mom had some traumas that she then passed on to her children, which I think is pretty common in that kind of cycle. And there's all these things that she has overcome. And one of them is her own self-confidence, because for her whole life she has thought that she isn't worthy of these things, or she isn't as good, or she isn't as smart. And none of those things were ever true. Never. She's intelligent and she is kind and she is a good person and she cares about other people and she's all of these wonderful things, but she could never see that for herself. And as we have gotten older and I've kind of been able to watch her come into her own and watch her change the way that her family dynamic is, because, when you grow up in a traumatic childhood, then you are much more likely, because that's the way you're raised and that's all that you are much more likely to then perpetuate that cycle and traumatize your own children very similarly. And she is aware of this. She acknowledges it, that these things happen to her. Not that she had, like, that she doesn't love her mother or, you know, her siblings or whatever, but these are things that are happened to her. And these are things that she is making sure that don't happen to her daughter, which is so powerful. She is such a good mother. And she does not even realize these things. Like, there are often times, and I think as all, you know, probably all parents, but I can only speak to the point of view of being a mom, where we're just so hard on ourselves and we're like, we're not, you know, I'm not doing enough of this, or I'm doing too much of this, or I lost my temper, or, you know, I wasn't perfect. Well, nobody is perfect. You're not Jesus. But this standard that we hold ourselves to, and so sometimes she can't see just how awesome she is doing. Like, she's just doing so well. And I've, you know, over the years that we have been friends, like, she's had some really terrible, really terrible boyfriends, as have I. I'm not gonna pretend like I didn't always have a great picker. We talked about my other friend who had a bad picker, and mine hasn't always been stellar. You know, I dated some that were not good, that were just not good for me, and some that were just not good all around. But she has always been a person who kind of jumped from relationship to relationship because she needed that to validate herself. And talking to her last night, like, I asked, because she's been single for a while now, for probably like a year. And, you know, I asked her, like, are you doing like dating apps or anything like that? And she was like, no, like, I just don't really feel like I'm in a place right now where I can be healthy and be in a relationship. Do you know how huge that is? Like, that's so huge that not only is she happy being by herself, she acknowledges that where she, like, whatever headspace she's in right now, or whatever point in her life that she is living, that it's just not a good time for her to be in a relationship with anybody else. Like, she doesn't feel like she is prepared to commit to that. And that is enormous, especially for her, because she spent her whole life feeling like she needed to be validated by another person to feel like she was worthy of being loved. And now, you know, she is acknowledging that she is sufficient, she is enough on her own. And I am just, like, totally impressed with her, blown away by the progress that she's made. And I am just endlessly happy for her that she is in such a good place and making such good decisions for herself. So I just kind of wanted to share that little, you know, tidbit, because everybody is in different places in their life. And if you are in a place in your life where you think that you are unlovable, or you are not worthy, or you need somebody else to tell you what your worth is, let me just go ahead and tell you that none of those things are true. You inherently have worth. You inherently are worthy. You don't need to be a certain way, act a certain way, own a certain thing, have a certain size house, have X amount of degrees or a degree at all to be worthy of being loved or being loved and appreciated. You inherently have worth. You are enough just as you are, just as God created you. And I think that I know I never really had a self-confidence problem when I was younger. That wasn't something, like, I've always pretty much been a person who just really kind of didn't care what other people thought about me. And I'm very grateful for that attribute. Like, I'm super grateful for it, because a lot of people spend a lot of time worrying about what other people think about them. And it was funny because last night Deidre had said, like, how she's gotten older and she just doesn't care what anybody thinks anymore, ever since she had her daughter, because now she has somebody else she needs to be an advocate for, and it doesn't really matter to her what other people think. It matters to her how she's raising her child. And she was like, oftentimes I think to myself, like, wow, Kelly's just been living her whole life like like this. And it's not like I don't care, period, what other people think. That's not true. I care about what the people close to me think. like people that I love and I surround myself with, I care what do those people think of me genuinely. Because I think sometimes, we all need a little check of self-awareness and people to tell us like, hey, maybe this isn't good for you, or maybe this way that you're behaving isn't necessarily what the persona that you're looking to project. And all of us have those things. But to see other people who are struggling with that is really super hard, because you know that that's not true. And you know that that voice inside their head is somebody else's voice. It may be their own internal voice now, but it started out as somebody else's voice. And whether that was when they were a child, things that they were told, or as an adult or as a spouse, things that they were repeatedly told that were nasty or demeaning or hurtful, and then they've internalized this, and now that's how they talk to themselves. Which I know that was the case with my best friend for a really long time. And it didn't really matter what I said to her, though I never stopped saying those things to her, that those things weren't true, and that, I really wish she wouldn't talk to herself that way. She had to figure that out for herself. She had to make the decision herself that she was not going to be that person anymore. And I seriously so proud of her for this person that she has grown into, especially given what she's come out of. So if you do that to yourself, I will tell you the same thing. Those things aren't true. Please don't talk to yourself that way. If you find yourself doing that, like I tell my son all the time, when that happens, like literally think of a big red stop sign. Stop it. And then tell yourself something that is true. That you are smart, that you are kind, that you are a good person, that the things that those other people are saying is not a reflection of who you are. It's a reflection of who they are. Those things are all true. So there's our Monday morning pep talk for the week, because it just breaks my heart that people are walking around in the world feeling that way when that is not true. They are worthy and they are loved and they are enough exactly the way that God created them. So here we're getting to the end of the card. Everything is colored. I love a little white gel pen accent. We're not going to pretend like I don't. So I put some stars in the sky. I put some highlights on my waves. I also put some highlights on my rocks. I realized here, which is another interesting thing, and I've heard Sandy Allnack talk about this, that if you do detail in certain areas, you don't have to do detail in all areas because your brain doesn't pick that out. And she's 100% right, because I completely forgot to color this whale and I didn't even notice. Same thing with the seaweed, like on the rock, I didn't color that either. And I didn't notice it, like until I was going through and adding in the details. So I was looking at each piece of the coloring piece by piece. Then I noticed that it wasn't colored, but I didn't notice before then. So I'm going to do the same little like glitter trick. You guys saw me do the stippling. That's kind of, something that I've done multiple times. I did it for the sand. I also did it for the mermaid to add just, some glitter to her body and her tail. I know it's sped up, but if you watch my videos, then you've definitely seen this before. And we have other videos where I go a little slower with it. So that's that. The last thing that I did, of course, was actually add glitter, which I did to several of I added it to the water, I added it to my mermaid, I added it to my starfish, as well as my whale. I'm trying to think if I put it on all the seashells. And then that's it. That's the entire card. So if you made it to this far, I'm going to say thank you. And also, there's free shipping on the Colorado Crafts website for the next 2 days. And also for sketch markers, if you're interested in those, that coupon code in the bottom is good only through tomorrow. It ends at the end of January. And then that's it for me. So I hope that you have a wonderful week. I will catch you guys on the next video. Bye.